I am going to rank every single level of Paper Mario Color Splash. And no, I am not kidding. All 31 of these are going to be ranked. Let me explain. Color Splash was the Mario RPG that I recently replayed, and it was actually better than I thought. While of course the battle system is not good, and it definitely should just go back to how it was in the original two games, at the very least, the worlds and the levels carried the game to make it enjoyable. While I bet some people would appreciate if these worlds were more connected, from the levels that we actually got, they were pretty fun to go through. So let me explain the rules. There aren't many, but I do have to address them. I will not be including every single level on this list. The only level I am not going to be including is Port Prisma, and that's it. All the other ones are going to be included. I will not be splitting this into different paint stars either. For example, Kiwano Temple has 3 different paint stars, but the level in this case would just be Kiwano Temple. And obviously this is my opinion and stuff like that, but you guys already knew this. And I think we need to get started right away because this is going to be a long one to get through. Well, my least favorite level has stayed the exact same for a long time now, and for people that have been on my channel, you guys know exactly why I don't like this level. One of the main things I really do not like about the newer Paper Mario games, and I'm so glad that Origami King got rid of them, are the stupid thing cards. To me, they have always been very cryptic and annoying to find, and it's always very infuriating when you have to go back to a certain level because you missed the thing card that was in it. Now for Tangerino Grill, you need 3 different thing cards. And of course this is because of the stupid steak. You have to cook a steak perfectly for a VIP guest who so happens to be the chapter boss for that portion of the game. I guess the concept isn't terrible, but the execution of it was just not fun in the slightest. And it's not even because of the thing cards anymore. Think about it. If I've played this game before, I know exactly what thing cards to use. No. The main thing that is very infuriating about it is that you have to use them in a certain order, and you have to tenderize the steak. Now tenderizing the steak doesn't seem that bad, it just means that you have to use your hammer a little bit, and theoretically, you're correct. The problem is that you have to use it very specifically at a very specific power to tenderize the meat perfectly. Yeah, I said perfectly a lot, and there's a very good reason for this. And how do you find this out? Also, how do you find out the order to use the things? Well, that's a good question. You have to ask all the toads that you just helped in the level to get your answer. This does not seem too bad, except the problem is that there are so freaking many of them, and you have to combine all that they're saying. It's just not helpful. Now it is at least helpful for finding out the order of the things, but not for how much you need to tenderize the meat. And the hammer attack is not a consistent attack. You have the different size of hammers and also how late you actually pull it off, which also affects the power. Because of this, it's extremely inconsistent. Now I've personally been ranting on the steak, but how is the cooking part? I mean, I guess it's fine. This is people's favorite part of the level, and I get the hype behind it to an extent, but for me personally, it's nothing special. It's definitely not bad, but it's just not that interesting. And if that's the highlight of the level, it just kind of shows how boring the level actually is. Especially because there barely is anything else to do in the level to begin with. It's just the restaurant, and all you have to do in there is the cooking portion with the perfect pizza, and then cook the steak. Because I have a very infuriating portion of the level, as well as something that isn't interesting in the slightest to me personally, it's gotta be the lowest on the list. Violet Passage as a level just makes me upset, because the first part of this level is you trying to save the pirate ship for the Toads. And it's actually a really cool sequence. Obviously you're trying to get some of the rescue squad members back, you're just trying to take over the ship from the Shy Guys. You have the really cool black Shy Guy boss, which, while isn't that interesting if you know what to do, it is interesting because the normal attacks of jumps and hammers don't do anything to him. It is a little bit cryptic, but it is at the very least interesting. It's also very funny to just look at the slow-mo when he just dodges your jumps and hammers. I think that's just funny to see. But then you have the frickin' boat ride, which is horrible to go through. I get that some people might think it's interesting, but for me, after you save the blue paint star, the big paint star, it just gets very disappointing because you have to go through this really long boat ride that is very cryptic to go through. Obviously, there's a couple of thing cards that you need, like the fan, which is a little stupid since you have to go back and get it if you didn't before. You need the compass, which luckily is literally given to you in this level, which I do appreciate. But what you have to do for each level itself is just not fun. Sometimes you have to get points by shooting some enemies. Sometimes you have to just shoot a random rock in the ocean. Sometimes you have to turn at certain points. You're given clues, but they're not very specific, so it's just not very helpful. And if you mess up, you have to go through that entire part over again. Luckily, it doesn't start you from the beginning. That will be horrible, but it's just not fun that you have to repeat it. Especially because the controls of the ship, because there's actually cannons on the ship that you're going to have to shoot a lot, it's not very reliable. Obviously, there's delay that you have to learn about, and also you have to go from each side, and it's not automatic. You actually have to move Mario from one side to the other. It's just not an enjoyable experience for me personally, and it's easily the worst part about World 4. I wish that it was just a simple boat ride. Once you get through and get the big paint star, restore the ocean, save the captain, you know, do a little bit of boat ride stuff, maybe get some extra coins, I don't know. Just something that wasn't as cryptic, and also not as long. This is an extremely long second part of the level, and it's just very irritating to go through. Even if you do it all first try, it's gonna take around like 10 minutes, which just isn't enjoyable. It sucks that the first part of the level is ruined by the second part, because like I said, the first part is very enjoyable. You're trying to take over a ship, but then it's just convoluted by this really garbage part of the level. It's just not fun, and it's why it's not at the bottom, but it is second to last. If it was just the boat ride itself, it would be very much at the bottom, though. The first part of the level very much saves it, but because the second part is in it to begin with, it has to be at number 30. Cobalt Base is a level that, for most people, just exists. I mean, it's Sniff It or Whiff It, which I know people enjoyed in Sticker Star, but I gotta say, Sniff It or Whiff It here was definitely just not as fun. Obviously, in Sticker Star, it had more interactive stuff. I think there was, like, Whack-A-Mole. Obviously, there was a couple questions in there, but it was more than just quiz questions. That's not the case for Cobalt Base. All there is here is just Sniff It or Whiff It with questions about cards getting mixed up, and that's really it. It's not the best, but it's not, like, annoying. It sometimes gets a little difficult, but it's not the worst thing in the world. It's kind of enjoyable, to be honest. But it's just not really set up that well. First off, you have to replace 30 of your cards because the 30 cards that you're given is actually good. Like, those are the cards that you want to use for Sniff It or Whiff It, because the other cards that you have, well, they're useless. They're not going to be answers for the Sniff It or Whiff It questions, which to me is annoying, because once you get to that portion of the game, you really don't have to fight any more enemies, so I'm kind of just stockpiling the good cards. So because of this, I have to get rid of a decent amount to actually store the ones I need. That's pretty irritating, but fine, I can get over it, especially if it's only once, right? Well, it technically might not be once, and that's a huge problem. Obviously, you're not perfect on a first-time playthrough, or at least in a playthrough that you really haven't done in a while. Because to be perfectly honest, I completely forgot Sniff It or Whiff It was in this game. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, cool. I mean, I completely forgot it was in it, but I was gonna have fun with it. And that's all that mattered to me. I got one wrong. I think it was like the one where you had to fill in a certain amount of paint. And that's fine. You know what? That's perfectly fine. Getting one wrong is completely fine. You still beat the level. Unless you just don't remember something. Well, once you get to World 4, you need the camera to defeat Wendy. You then learn that Sniff It or Whiff It took the camera from the level. So that means you have to go all the way back to Cobalt Base to do Sniff It or Whiff It again. Go through the entire process, by the way. You can't just start off by you winning, because you can't do that. it's, you know, you gotta do everything again, which is just oh so fun. You have to waste another 30 of your cards, and that's even worse here because you're about to do a boss fight, so you even stockpiled more. It's irritating, and it's not free either. It's just, it's annoying, and I don't like it, especially because you have to do it perfectly. It also takes a decent amount of time to do it, and yeah, you have to do everything perfectly or you lose and you don't get the camera. After you get the camera, you don't have to come back here again. If thing cards weren't in this game, this level would be fine, because you don't do anything aside from the thing card. You just play Snifter with it, which is just a jolly fun time. And if that was the entire level, like I said, it would be better. It would be a better spot on this list. It might be forgettable, but you know what? At least it would be enjoyable. Forgettable and enjoyable is a fine enough combo for me. But here, because of the camera, it's a very infuriating level that I just have such bad memories with, which is why it has to be here at number 29. The Golden Coliseum, which is spelled wrong. Why is it spelled wrong? It made it very weird typing it into the Word document I used to get my thoughts on paper, but why is it spelled wrong? Is it a joke? Is it a joke that I don't get? I don't care. I don't truly care. It's the least of this level's problems. I don't have a single positive thing to say about the Golden Coliseum. At least with the bottom spots, I had like a little bit of things to say. Here, there is nothing. Obviously, that means that the negatives aren't that bad, but my gosh, it's really sad to see this. The Golden Coliseum has a terrible layout. It's not fun to explore this place. Now, I've said before that the layout of a level being confusing isn't terrible, but it has to be fun to explore. It has to have some interesting rooms. Yeah, it doesn't. It's just Coliseum rooms. It's just like what you'd expect. It's very confusing, but it's very boring. I mean, the only interesting thing between each room is just the different NPCs, and that's not really that fun. I guess you could talk to them for a little bit. If you enjoy talking to NPCs, maybe you'll get a kick out of it, but personally I don't, and even for the NPCs themselves, they aren't really that interesting. Also, you have to find 3 thing cards in this level. You guys already know how I'm gonna feel about this. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. Obviously, there's really only 2 thing locations, because the bottle opener and the ice pick are in the same spot. Like, once you see them, you're good to go, but the bone is in a completely different location. You actually have to go through the level twice to get all 3 of them, which is very infuriating. Now, on a first playthrough, this is the worst level in the game. It is, because you don't know about the ice pick and the bottle opener, but you know you have to get the bone, which also, I don't like that the bone is used as the main thing card, because you just can go to the Ringler and see, oh, I'm just gonna get it. Nope, it's sold out. You're wasting time, which is just annoying. I don't like that. I mean, I guess, like, it's a twist in the game, but just use a different thing. I get that there was story prevalence with the bone, but to me, it was more just annoying. It wasn't as annoying as the camera, but it definitely was the second most annoying thing card to get in the game. Or, at least on a multiple time playthrough. On a first time playthrough, oh, the crown easily goes to the bottle opener and the ice pick. Obviously, you have to go through the level twice to get all 3 of them. But you don't know that you need the ice pick and the bottle opener, because when you use them, it's very late into the game. So you can go through the entire level just getting the bone, and go into the late game missing something. You have no idea what it is, but you know you're missing something, because you use all your thing cards because you don't know what else to do. And you go to the trash can guy, and you realize that you're missing something at the Golden Coliseum. And if you have a bad memory, which, I mean, I don't, but if you do, then you have to go through the entire level again with minimal memory, basically playing the entire level again, because it's at the end for both the bone and the ice pick and bottle opener, but they're in separate locations. That's why it's very annoying to go through the entire level again. If you get all of them twice, that's fine. If you go through the level twice and just know it, it's not the worst level in the world, which is why it's at number 28. It's not super annoying on a multiple time playthrough, but on a first time playthrough, may God have mercy on your soul. At least it isn't bad nowadays, which is why it isn't at the bottom, but number 28 here fits perfectly. Chateau Chantarelli, which I am now going to refer to as this level for the rest of this segment. So this level is nothing. Like, it's where the professor lives, and what do you do here? I mean, obviously you get 2 paint stars, which unlocks 2 pretty important levels in the game, and that's it. I mean, there's nothing to do here. It's just a house and a backyard. You go here a decent amount of times, which has always been very weird to me. But, I mean, there's nothing positive about this level, because there's nothing here. That's the main reason why it's so low, is what do? You just wait for Princess here. You use the bone here to get the professor up and running so you can get the mining permit, but that's kind of it. I mean, there really isn't anything else to do here. It's just, it exists, and that's it. There's a couple other things that you do to get, like, the spike for Kiwano Temple. I guess that's really it. There really just isn't much content here, and that's why it's so low on the list. This segment should not be longer than it should be. Daffodil Peak. I don't like this level, and it's not even because there's anything in there that's annoying. It just feels like there's no life to this level. It feels completely lifeless. I guess it's really only because your goal is to get to the top of the mountain, which seems normal, and it is. It's too normal. I guess the main reason that's annoying is because all you're doing is getting to the top, and that's it. Like, that's all you're doing. Obviously, you have to, like, see the mountain sage and stuff, but that's it, and it really doesn't do anything with the concept in between when you're climbing up. All you're doing is getting to the top, and you find out the mountain sage isn't there. There's really only 2 interesting parts of the level. You'll learn the unfurl block, which, if I'm being honest, it's better used in places like Sunglow Ridge. And also, you get to go to the mountain climber permit guy's house, which is pretty cool, and it is fun to actually paint back in to get it back to how it was. But that's it. Climbing the mountain itself was honestly pretty boring. All there really is just fighting enemies. And that's it. I mean, there's like a pipe maze at the top to find 2 paint stars. And that's it. I mean, obviously at the top you realize there's no mountain sage. And then you go back into the level and bam, you did it. You found the mountain sage. That's the gatekeeper. The problem is that this is the least interesting mountain sage as well. The Blue Bay Beach one had a really cool, interesting story with obviously wanting to sail to the end of the world, and the one at Cherry Lake, Justice Toad, is amazing. And you will never change my mind on them. This one just lost its memory, and that's boring to me. That's it. That's all he did. It's boring. That's all I really gotta say. This level is boring. It's lifeless, it has no content, and that's the main reason why it's at number 26. Kiwano Temple, at least on an outside perspective, I feel like most people would think is fine. And yes, and no. I feel like the level, as well as like Daffodil Peak, it just feels very lifeless. This time you're just trying to get to the end of the temple, and there really isn't much to it in my opinion. I guess like there's some interesting stuff with the star, which I just found fine. The lava portion at the end though, that is easily the best part of the level, where you have to like dodge all the fire, the rocks that are coming up, and the lava is rising, so you have to get to the end as fast as possible. I like that. It's the only good part of this level, and like legitimately good part of this level. The big spiny at the end is uninteresting. It's a big spiny, and like he's kind of hard for that early in the game, but his attacks are so boring. He does nothing interesting. He just does big spiny things, or well, spiny things that are big. And that's it. Like, they're the exact same attacks that you would expect. And yes, he has more health, but that's just because he's big. It's like the reason why the big Goomba is hard from Mondo Woods. It's because he's big and he has a lot of health. That's the only reason, and that's really the only thing that makes it difficult. It's just so boring to me. And the worst part about this level, the worst part goes back to a Golden Coliseum. you have to go through this level twice. At the very least, this level is linear, so you will not get lost, but credit to Golden Coliseum, if you know what you're doing and you're not going to get lost, at the very least, you can kind of breeze through the level to get to the second pathway. Here, oh my gosh, you literally have to go through the entire level again. And the level isn't like terrible, it's more just slow paced, so it's very irritating to go through the entire level again. It's, why? Like, all the slow-paced moving with the octagons, like the cardboard octagons, like the spike dodging, it's just very irritating. Even doing the lava portion again isn't even fun. It's just irritating. I don't like it. Why isn't the paint star earlier in the level? This is a very long level, or at least it feels like that, so having to do it twice is just not fun, especially because nothing literally changes. Like I said, you are doing the exact same level, no changes, the exact same thing, the same slow pace, again. That is one of the main reasons I do not like this level. It's just very irritating because of that, and it absolutely deserves to be number 25. Our second level on the list that gives us one of the big paint stars, and it's actually the last one. I guess if you don't count Black Bowser's Castle as the last one. You get the green paint star here. And this level, it has problems, and it's pretty obviously because it's an enemy gauntlet. This entire level, all you're doing is just fighting enemies in a circus. And I'll talk about the circus part later, but I don't like the battle system in this game. I've said this many times. I don't like using the cards because I like saving them for bosses. The problem is that the enemy gauntlet is right before the boss fight. So you're gonna be having to use good stickers to defeat the enemies. And trust me, the enemies are not easy to take out. You need strong stickers to actually take them out. So because of this, it's not enjoyable, and you can die here and your progress gets reset. It's just annoying because of that, and I don't personally like it. Just wish it was just a more expansive level. But that's really the entire level, and that's also just not great. I don't like that that's the only thing here. It's just the enemy gauntlet, and of course the boss fight, which the boss fight is okay. It doesn't really do anything special, but at least it is kind of difficult, and that's good for that late in the game. But I will say, the one super positive thing about this place, and why it's number 24, is the setting. The actual circus itself is very, very fun to be in. It has a very good atmosphere. It actually feels very lively. It feels like you're in a circus. The music is really good. The cutscenes is really good. Kind of like the humor as well. I just like the atmosphere that's brought from the circus itself. It makes it just a more fun place to be in. That's very good, especially compared to places like Kiwano Temple and Daffodil Peak, where those places have not felt very lively at all. This place, even though I don't like the content inside of it, at least I enjoy being in the level itself. So because of that, it has to be number 24. I do wish there was more to it, but for the atmosphere itself, it actually carries the level surprisingly. How do people actually feel about this level? I really don't know. I feel like most people just don't care about it. And I'm kind of in the same boat, except I'm a little bit more towards the hatred side. I don't like this level. Do I hate it? Like, absolutely? No, there are some good parts of it. I do like the prison breakout at the very end. It's fun. It has a very cool layout. There's a lot of floors to it, and you have to rescue the toad. And it's very interesting. I do think that it's interesting to try to save the toad the entire time, even though I will admit at points, it was kind of annoying. But that's not the biggest problem about this level. This level drags so badly. It drags out for a very long time. The rooms that you have to deal with are very difficult to get through platforming wise. There's a lot of rooms, and they're all very long. This is an extremely long level. And it's every single time I go through a level, I just dislike it more and more. I get that the prison breakout is fun. The problem is that I'm 20 minutes in, and I'm already just not having fun anymore. I just want to get out of the level. And it's kind of like a teaser, because once you get to that pipe, you realize you're basically at the end. And then you get put into the prison breakout. And don't get me wrong, I like the prison breakout, but I also just want the level to end. If the level ends, it would have been just better. It would have been nicer. The prison breakout is not short either. This level could have been shortened. And I get it's the first level once you're done with the purple paint star, so it's kind of like an introductory to what you're going to do next. Just make it shorter. I don't like this level at all because of how long it is, and that's the big problem. It also just doesn't feel that lively. Once you get back to the actual cafe itself, then it actually feels more lively, then it feels nicer, but just the level itself, just trying to traverse the bottom, it's not fun at all, and that's why it deserves to be number 23. I don't know what to say about this level. For every single level that I'll talk about on this list, and what I personally do for recording, I have all my pros and all my cons listed out for each of the levels, so I kind of know what to talk about. But I don't have anything listed for either of them. Nothing! I don't know what to talk about with this level. It probably makes this easily the most forgettable level in Color Splash. And it kind of makes sense. Obviously we had Red Pepper Volcano before this, so obviously it's a level that looks very similar, has a very similar feeling, and it really doesn't have anything that stands out for Red Pepper Crater. The only thing that's interesting is the spa segment, and obviously having to get the hair dryer. And that's it. There was so much more going on in Red Pepper Volcano, and this just feels like a huge carbon copy of the level. Every single level in Color Splash, to an extent, feels different from one another. But Red Pepper Crater feels completely the exact same as Red Pepper Volcano. And I don't even love Red Pepper Volcano that much either, so seeing this level be low on the list, it definitely makes sense. Sunglow Ridge is the one level that misses the top 20. And now we're starting to get into the levels that have maybe one or two memorable moments, and that's really it. There are a couple of positives to talk about with this level though. There is the best use of the unfurl block, which obviously isn't really used that much in the game, but here it's used I think 3 or 4 times, which is, well, it's more than most of the levels in this game, and it's used pretty well here. That's interesting to say the least. I also like a decent amount of rooms in this level. There's a lot of hidden stuff to explore and stuff that you really wouldn't expect. They also are way bigger than you would think, which is, well, I do enjoy that. And also, of course, we have the black paints, which at the beginning of the level, a huge bullet bill just comes down to the level and spreads black paint everywhere in this one room. Huey has to clean all of it up. And it's kind of shown how dangerous black paint is here. And you know what? I actually like it a decent amount. It's a good story moment. And that's it. That's really the only thing about this level that's interesting. It's the only memorable part about this level. The black paint, and that's it. I completely forgot about the unfurl block until recording this segment. I forgot about most of the rooms. So overall, it's a pretty forgettable level, just like Red Pepper Crater. But at the very least, it does have those memorable moments compared to Red Pepper Crater, where Red Pepper Crater, I basically remember nothing from it. At the very least, it has the black paint, which was very interesting. And to be fair, this level was always going to be basic. It's the first level after you get the big red paint star. So because of this, it has to have a basic level to kind of lead you into the next chapters. So because of that, it kind of makes sense being at number 21. Entering the top 20 here, we have Red Pepper Volcano, which really doesn't have much to it. But just like Sunglow Ridge, it makes sense because this is the level that's right after the big orange paint star. So obviously, you just had a big event going on, so this is the level kind of leading you into the next step. But even with that, Red Pepper Volcano isn't the worst level in the world. It does have really only one positive though, and that is the big dragon. I love this dragon. Oh my god, I love it so much. So you get to ride the dragon. It's awesome. You get to go over the dragon by riding it on the lava, and you have the flaming burger as like bait to like make him move. It's adorable, and I like it. Every single time I'm done with this level, I always feed the burger to him because it's just adorable. He deserves it. He has like a really adorable face. Okay, back on track. The dragon is cool. I like it. Other than that, I mean, there's nothing else in this level, guys. It's the dragon that's awesome. I like the dragon a lot. That's the main reason it's number 20. It's just very memorable. It's very adorable. That's it. The rooms themselves are pretty forgettable. I mean, everything else about this level is pretty forgettable, but just like Sunglow Ridge, I remember one thing, and I actually like this one thing way more than black paint, because it is adorable, and that is why it's number 20. Marmalade Valley is a very interesting level. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's always been very interesting to me, and I think it has to be because of its location. It's a digging fossil site. Like, that's really cool to have a Mario level centered around. There really isn't too much to it, like you don't have to actually dig for the fossils, which I guess could have been a little bit fun, maybe some missed potential there, but it still is very fun to explore, seeing all the toads try to excavate what is soon to be the dragon at Red Pepper Volcano. Overall, there really isn't too much to this level. The best part about it is easily the princess chases. The big chain chomp literally chasing you down. You have to escape it twice, and it's very fun to escape. Obviously, there's a lot of tension to it. I really like the cutscene before the first one where Huey is literally like saying, "Hey, I'll always protect you, man." And then he just literally gets out of there. That's not cool. Anyways, the second one's actually very interesting too, because you have to hide in a certain place. You don't actually run away the entire time. If you don't hide, then you will die. So because of that, there are some interesting parts. Overall, those are like the standout parts of this level, but just like the other ones that I've talked about, there really is those only one or two standout moments, being the setting and the princess chase segments. Other than that, the level is just fine, which is why it deserves number 19. The Indigo Underground is a very solid level. It's kind of basic, but it kind of makes sense. This is the underground level of World 1 for Color Splash, so it was bound to be basic. But even what's done here, I do like it a decent amount. The concept here is that you have to find all the rescue squad members to make a bridge. And normally I'm not really that big of a fan of the rescue squad members in this game. Having to go to different levels to find different rescue squad members is not personally my cup of tea. It's not terrible, but I just don't personally like it that much. In this level, though, it works. Every single member is in this level, and I like that because the level is not complete until you find every single one, and there aren't too many rooms to explore, so you know that they're going to be in a general vicinity, and there's different ways to actually get every single one, so it's pretty unique because of that. And one of the ways is easily the most memorable part about this level, and probably one of the most memorable parts about this game. That creepy Shy Guy, it's terrifying. He sucks the life out of the toad, and then, he just weirdly waddles to you, or crawls to you, whatever you want to do. Kill it with fire. That's all you gotta do. It's creepy, it's not difficult, but the music there, like, they're really trying to build it up, and it works extremely well. Because of this, it's a very memorable level just from that one moment alone. So overall, I do think this is a decent level, so because of that, it deserves to be number 18. When people think of Cherry Lake, they think of one thing. Okay, well, maybe two things, but we'll talk about the first thing, and that's Justice Toad. I love Justice Toad. He's so funny. Okay, so the whole level is basically centered around you saving Justice Toad, getting his dignity back. And all you do is just get his clothing and get his journal. That's it. That's all you really do, and it's just a fun level because of that. And I think this level works really well, not just because of the personality of Justice Toad, but I bet that is probably what rose at like 10 spots, but also just like the layout of the level. There is a decent amount to explore to actually find where Justice Toad's things are. So because of this, it makes it just an overall fun level. There's also the Shy Guy that was getting teased to get the extra card slot, which that was kind of funny to watch, especially just to see him die and then Huey do nothing about it. That was pretty terrible of Mario and Huey, But overall, I think this is just a very solid level. This is the second level in the game, and overall, it was just a fun experience to go through. Right at the middle of the list here, we have Ruddy Road, which is the first level of the game, and for the first level, it actually does a decent amount of stuff right. There's a lot of little areas in this place to explore, like the house, and there's the cafe that's later down in the level, which obviously makes the level more lively, which you really wouldn't expect for a first level. Obviously, you want to get the paint star, but the Shy Guy actually takes paint out of the paint star, which makes it, you know, have some conflict in the level. So you chase this Shy Guy down to try to get the paint back. And after you get the paint back from the Shy Guy, well, he puts it back, and then there's a ton of Shy Guys that literally roll up the level. The entire road literally gets rolled up, and the cafe literally turns upside down, and it's in the sky. That is so interesting for a first level, and there's also a chase sequence just like you had in Marmalade Valley. Except this time it's the first chase sequence in the game, so it's more stressful here. Because of this, it's actually a very interesting first level, and obviously to get unstuck, it's not very difficult, but it's so interesting. You don't really have these many things for a first level, and overall, it does way more things than half of the levels on this list. So because of that, it has to land at number 16. This is one of the best levels in the game for introducing a lot of concepts, and it's so early in the game, and it has a lot of positives here. It's very impressive to see. Another World 1 level, and we've been talking about liveliness for a lot of these levels, and one of the most lively levels in this game has to be Blue Bay Beach. The festival in this level is very fun. All it really is just Toad and Go Seek, but that's it, and you're just trying to find toads with some really good music, and obviously there's the scandal where you have to paint the toad and figure out that they're actually trying to cheat you. And overall, it's just a fun time. Being around the toads is just a fun time overall. The private beach as well is just a good place to be. And overall, it's a fun place. I also like the first room. It's very open to explore. There's also the blue sage there. You have the really cool cutscene where he's riding on the board. And it's just fun overall. He tries to sail to the end of the world, and he fails. But then that cool cutscene makes up for it. And obviously, he stops the wave. And again, it's just a very fun level to be in. It's very fun. The energy's really good. I will say that there is one negative to this level, and that is the middle room between the first room and the festival. It's just a long pathway with a ton of enemies. It's not fun, especially for this part of the game where you want to grind out enemies. There's so many enemies in this place, and it is a little bit of a personal pet peeve instead of like an actual negative, but obviously it's very empty, there really isn't much to it, and because of that, it's easily the worst room in the level. But only one room is a problem with this level, and even that, it still deserves to be number 15. Ah, Dark Blue Inn. I used to not like this level for the one negative that I still do have for this level, and I'll talk about that a bit later. Here's the thing about this level. It's creepy. It's trying to be. And it's not. I mean, it really isn't. But overall, it's a fun level to explore through. There's obviously a lot of rooms in this place. There's a ton of floors that you have to explore, and you have to solve the ghost's problems. And there's a different amount of things that you actually have to do for them. You have to get the Yoshi for one of them. You have to, like, find the room for one of them. You have to get clean sheets. There's a decent amount of stuff that you gotta do, and it's interesting, and I like the ghost character, and it obviously makes it more interesting to explore. Obviously, the toads in general are good. Having to get the clean sheets in general is fun to do. Having to fight the enemies outside. I like that there aren't actually that many enemy fights in this level. That is actually very appreciated, if I'm being honest. The one thing I do not like, and it is still sticking, is the time limit. Is it really that bad? No, but I just don't like that it's here in general. Having progress reset is not good, and I don't like when it happens. Because of this, when your progress resets, you're done. You have to do the entire level over again. And let me tell you, it's not as fun to do over again because the experience is not there anymore because you already went through it and you're annoyed. So it's not fun. That's what I dealt with on one of my first playthroughs, and that's why I was very annoyed with the level. I said it was one of my least favorite levels because of it. That's unjustified. It's not. It's one of the easiest levels to explore and very fun to explore just because of that. The music is also very good for this level. Overall, it's good. It's fun. It has a lot of interesting things going on. It's not very lively, but it actually works with that, and because of that, it has to deserve number 14. We've already talked about levels where the entire concept is just to go from one end to the other. And yeah, Plum Park isn't really much different from that. The thing about it though is that this is easily the best level that actually has that concept. The problem is that it's always going to be deadlocked from the really good levels because there isn't really a good concept surrounding it. The contents in Plum Park are good, but obviously the whole level itself, it isn't the best thing in the world. But obviously the level itself, it's fun to explore. This level is actually pretty massive. It feels like there's a lot more rooms, which is pretty good. I like it. The rooms that are in there are very expansive. Obviously they're blocked off by poison water, but once you get the bucket, you can basically explore wherever you want, which makes it very fun. The rooms themselves also have a lot in them, which makes it very fun to explore, like the fountains. There's all the hedge mazes. And obviously the best part about the level is the Birdo performance, that's one thing. All the liveliness with the Shy Guys there, they're all enjoying it. It's just fun to be around. And also the Petey Piranha fight. It's a good fight. It's not amazing or anything, but it reminds me of the fight in Sticker Star, which was obviously my favorite fight in that game, and it still absolutely is. It's fun to fight, it's very basic, but that's what I liked about it in Sticker Star, and all the good factors were brought here. I like the fight a lot. Now, obviously, this level isn't amazing, there's no, like, big concept surrounding it, and that's the main reason it isn't any higher. I will say that it is actually very interesting post you're done with the level. I guess post-game is what that's called, but that's, like, when you're done with the game. Post-level, I guess that's what we'll call it. After all the poison water is gone, you can explore everything, and obviously you can go to all the fountains, you can get the other paint star, and obviously there's way more to explore because the level is completely fixed now. Because of that, it makes the level more interesting. And I like that about the level. So because of that, the interesting post-game, the Birdo performance, the Petey Piranha fight, it being very big and fun to explore, it definitely deserves to be number 13, but obviously it was very much held back. I can definitely see some people disagreeing with Lighthouse Island being this high on the list because it is kind of a short level, and I do agree with that, it's definitely the worst part, but from some people that probably know, I love the parallel world concept in this game. It is my favorite concept of this entire game, and I love every single level that has it. Now yes, this is easily the worst level. Vortex Island and Fortune Island use that concept way better. But it just is so good with the atmosphere. I love what the parallel world did with the scenery. It looks so creepy, the music is all distorted, and it works really well because of that. I also like trying to get to the top of the lighthouse when you're in the parallel world. You have to use paint to try to actually discover the path. So that's a pretty cool concept. But obviously, the other levels have more to it. Obviously, Vortex Island is the first time you do it, and obviously there's just more to it to begin with. And also, Fortune Island is the final level, and you have to go back and forth a lot. Lighthouse Island doesn't really do that. You just go through it once, and, well, that's really it. Obviously, it's still fun trying to get to the top, but that's really it. It's really saved by the concept, and if it didn't have it, then it'd be much lower. But because of the parallel worlds, it has to be number 12. Sunset Express, which is literally a level that you are riding on a train that is going blitzing speed. It's awesome. What did you really expect? It missed the top 10, but this is an extremely fun level to go through. You are literally riding on a train that has been taken over by the VIP, aka Larry, and you have to take it back from him. When you traverse the train, there are so many different things that you have to do, and it's very unique because of it. You have to go inside the train and on top of it, and you have to defeat enemies that are not easy to defeat, especially up to this point. And because of that, it makes it a pretty fun experience, and you're not wasting your cards, which is pretty good. That's a really good thing to have that Emerald Circus failed at. So because of this, going on the train is a very fun experience. There's also the Shy Guy there that people really like that has the story element. I don't care. I mean, you guys know that I don't care about story. I mean, it's good that it's there, I guess, but I wish I could skip it. I mean, that's really... It's not a complaint about this level, but, you know, can I just, like, get to the boss itself that I really want to fight? And speaking of, the boss is actually pretty good. I think Larry is a good balance of difficulty because you have to defeat a row of enemies that he sends out in one turn, which isn't that difficult, but if you're a little bit conservative with your cards, then you're gonna struggle because you literally get reset progress if you don't get them all taken out in one turn. So because of this, you have to be careful. And that's good. I like that. It actually tests your ability up to this point. And once you use the cork or whatever it is, it's basically done. But that's fine. I think this boss is good for this game. The only thing that I will say, and this is the one negative, I don't like that you have to find rescue squad members. Now, just why? Like, that's the main thing. It's not like a problem that you have to find them. They aren't annoying to find. It's just, why? It doesn't feel needed. Just enjoy the train. Don't make us find rescue squad members. Maybe it makes it a little bit more unique for each, like, part of the train, but even then, I don't think it was that needed. I mean, again, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's still number 11, and that's really the only negative it has, but that's why it's not in the top 10, if you guys are wondering. It has a ton of stuff that I really like. Obviously, just the atmosphere itself, being on the train, the music as well, that's pretty tense, and it's just a very fun level to go through, which is why it absolutely deserves number 11. This is one of the most memorable levels from this game. This and Mondo Forest. Both of the forest levels are extremely memorable from this game. All this level does, and why it's so high, is that you literally have the world shrunk down because of Kamek. And, yeah, they get a lot of mileage from that, let me tell you. Now, one thing I will say is that the first visit, where all you really do is just see the toads, where you try to just get in the pipe, but you just see the big radish, obviously that isn't great, you don't have to do anything there. And then the third visit, which has the good Kamek fight, which, I mean, like I said, it's good. It has a good concept. Kamek shrinks you down. But, I mean, that's really all you do. You just get the magnifying glass and you just use it on the pipe and there you go. It's fine. Like, the fight itself is good, like I said, but I wish there was a little bit more to that visit. But the second visit, where you have to do everything there, you actually figure out what this level is all about. Oh, it's so good. The main concept here, aside from obviously everything being small, is that the Goombas split up the paint star into 5 separate pieces, and you have to find out where each one is. And they're hidden in pretty different locations. There's a massive tree for one of them. There's one where it's hidden by a lot of buzzy beetles. There's probably more that I can't remember if I'm being honest, but overall it's very fun to explore. And also it's very fun just seeing all these enemies that are trying to be threatening, and I mean, they're really tiny. Like, the game's building it up, and it's just really funny to look at. Like, there's the small hammer bros, there's, like, the small Goomba wheels that are, I mean, like, they aren't threatening at all, but they try to build it up, and this is very funny because of that. And also, the massive small hordes, those are actually threatening. It's very hard to take out, and that's, well, it's kind of threatening because of that, but you also get the star power for one of them, and that's really satisfying to try to take out every single one in the area. Overall, this level just does a lot of stuff. It takes a lot of mileage from one simple concept, and just because of that, it has to be number 10. A level from the first part of the game actually made it into the top 10. But Crimson Tower is really good. Now, it's mainly because of the airship part at the beginning. At the beginning, the Crimson Tower itself is just completely drained of color. It is all gone. But then you get to see the airship that literally takes all the red paint away. And then there's the anchor that, I mean, you help them literally get up, and then you ride up to get into the airship. It's really cool. I obviously really like the music, and fighting the enemies themselves there is fun to do, trying to actually let go of the paint itself. It's a very enjoyable thing to do. And obviously you drop all the paint, and it's a really satisfying thing. It's a fun beginning, and it's very, very memorable from this game. Now, the tower itself is good. Like, it has a good layout, has some good design. It's like, it's the final level of the first world. It's good, it works, but it's not memorable, which is fine. Like, it's completely fine. It's basically how the other levels in this game, the other first levels in the game, like Ruddy Road or Cherry Lake, they're good, but there's nothing special around it. No, but the special thing is the airship. The airship is super memorable, and the rest of the level is good. Well, most of the level is good. The only thing I will say, which, I mean, I get why it's this way, but the first boss sucks. I mean, Morton is super easy. Just use the fire extinguisher when you need to, and you're good to go. Obviously, it had to be this way, but it's still boring to me. I mean, that's kind of just obvious. It was gonna be like this. It's fine. Like, I expected it. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's just the boss. It's at the very end of the level. It definitely does not take away anything from the beginning and the middle part. Everything about this level, aside from the boss, works really well, and it's still surprising to me that this is from the first world. So because of that, it has to be at number 9. I know that Dark Blue Inn was trying to be creepy, and it was kind of like the creepy level of this game, but it's not the creepiest in my opinion. That easily goes to Moss Rock Theater. It is the creepiest atmosphere of all time, and that mainly has to go to the music. It is so odd, and something that I really did not expect to hear on my first playthrough, and it still creeps me out to this day. It sounds very good, but obviously, it does its job for what it's trying to do. This is the first level that's trying to introduce the circus theme that's in this chapter, and it works really well, because this level is odd, for many reasons. One reason is because of the enemies. Normally you're just fighting normal enemies, like, oh, a shy guy comes up to you, you gotta fight it. But here, obviously you got some normal enemies, like the dinosaurs that breathe fire, but you also got the shy guys that are in very weird things, like they're on a swing, they're in like these circle things. There's also the Hammer Bros that are dressed up completely. And also, speaking of that, the circus segments in this level are easily the best part. The music is obviously very good, like I mentioned for the Emerald Circus, and also, it's just a very interesting thing that you really would not expect. The vibe that this level gives off is both eerie and very enjoyable to be in, which is just extremely interesting that it's been pulled off well. Overall, it's a fun level to be in, but I will say that one thing that is extremely lazy in this level are the 2 paint stars. The obviously one at the end, that you just go to the end of the level and you get it. That's fine, that one's completely fine, it's a normal paint star. But the second and third one, to give you the shortcuts to get to this level, are stupid. They are literally planted right next to each other, and they're barely hidden. It's really stupid in my opinion, and I wish they spread them out some more, especially because this level can hide things extremely well, and they really just didn't. There's a ton of fog in this place, there's a ton of weird directions you have to go, there's a ton of enemies that are blocking your path. Just hide them better. You don't have to place them in the exact same spot. I thought that was really stupid, and definitely brings the level down a little bit. But other than that, this is an extremely memorable level from this game, and it has to be number 8. Mondo Woods. What do you really expect from this level? Well, if you read the name, it's pretty obvious. This place is huge, and oh yeah, it's very fun to go through. Kamek makes the forest really big, and it makes everything very threatening to you. Little Goombas are now massive, and you have to use a decent amount of cards to take them out. And they actually, like, seem very threatening when they're chasing you, which is, I mean, it's very terrifying to go in this level. But it's worth it because you get extremely powerful cards as well, which I also very much like. It's the first time you get consistently really good cards from a level, and it's just very satisfying to see. I also just like the sounds that are made for this level. Everything is so massive, so everything is much deeper than it normally is. And overall, it's just a very fun level that is easily carried by the concept. Now, I will say that there isn't actually that much going on in this level. It is mainly just carried by the concept, like I said, compared to something like Sacred Forest, where it actually had some stuff going on. But I just like the concept so much, and I honestly just like being in this level a little bit more than Sacred Forest, which is why it ranks a little bit higher. And it just works. Everything here is super memorable. It's such a simple concept, but it works. You have the giant coin that you have to fill in with the big yellow paint star. You have the moment where you're talking to the professor, and you have to talk about Princess, and that part's really funny because you know it's not good. You really messed up, and you're just gonna see that at the next level. So because of that, just little moments like that really works for me, and the concept alone has to lift it up very high on this list. Toad Train Works is a classic level to me. It's super simple. All you have to do is put together the train. Obviously, it was kind of destroyed in Kiwano Temple, so just fix it up. That's really all you have to do in this level, and they do a lot of unique things with it. Yes, the concept can get a little bit repetitive for some people, but for me personally, because of all the unique ways you have to put together the train, it is pretty fun to me. Obviously, you have to do the little crane segment. You have to kill the rat for the toad that's like spinning on top. There's a different room. Actually, something to mention with this level is that it's really small. This is a very small level, but there's a lot of different parts that you can explore, which is very interesting. It's just a train station, but it feels like you're exploring a lot of parts about it. You go inside, you go outside. There's a lot, and that I really do appreciate. And obviously the most memorable part about this level, which I'm pretty sure most people would agree on, it's the toads damaging you when they're waiting. I think it's just very funny. It's just out of nowhere, and it doesn't really do anything for the level, but it's very memorable. Like, it's just something that really sticks with you because it's just so random. Overall, though, this level is great. I think a lot of what's going on works. It's very simple, and because of that, it has to be here, number 6. Heading into the top 5 here, we have Fort Cobalt, which I know some people may be a little bit confused because looking at this level, it's just a typical boss level to most people. To me, it's way more memorable than that. I will say that it is kind of basic in terms of the layout, the music, and the atmosphere. I mean, it's a fortified fort. Like, of course it is. That makes sense. It's in the name. The music is obviously very typical in that sense. It's not very memorable to me. It's fine. It's not annoying, though. But this layout of the level and just the rooms themselves are very good in my opinion. You have the trial and error room with the gates. You have the cafe that's just randomly in this place that you really wouldn't expect, that has the magma burgers, which is very interesting. Just something that you really would not expect to see in this level. You also have the weird workout rooms here. Obviously, you have the boss room that's very massive and very interesting to actually see. And also, the main rooms in this level are very open and interesting to explore. You have to go in many different directions to actually get through the level. Because of that, I really enjoy it. Obviously, the boss that I kind of mentioned, it's one of the best bosses in this game. It's super simple, but it has great music and uses tails very well. But there is a negative, and I mentioned it before with the Sunset Express. I don't like rescue members. I mean, it doesn't hurt the level, but they're not needed. I really don't want them in here. I just want to go through the level. Like, I want to kind of like Crimson Tower instead of Sunset Express. Just because I don't want rescue members here. I just want the task to be getting to the end, exploring the rooms, like going through puzzles. That's more interesting to me than solving with the rescue members. To me, it's not as fun, especially if you forget some, and you have to go back in this level. That's not fun in my opinion. But everything else is very good. It's a very typical level, very memorable to me personally. One of the best times I actually had in Color Splash was in this level. So because of that, it has to land here in the top 5. Of course this level was going to be ranked this high. The green energy plant is one of the most memorable levels in this game. So because of that, I'm not going to talk about the positives yet, because everyone's already talked about them. I am going to talk about the one negative I have, and that is the layout. It's solid, but it is not great. It's kind of the same problem I have with the Golden Coliseum. If you know where to get everything, you're good to go. But a new player wouldn't know this. And the thing that I'm talking about is one single rescue squad member. And the reason why that's annoying is because for this chapter specifically, you have to get so many rescue squad members. There's so many you have to rescue for the Emerald Circus. And there is a single one in the green energy plant, which you would not know unless you went down a specific pathway, which to me is a little bit annoying. Again, if you know what you're doing, you're good to go. But I personally would have preferred it a little bit earlier in the level before the pathway split. And that would have been a great fix to this level, so you didn't have to worry about it. There's also a thing card here that you have to get. Well, you don't have to get it, but it's still here if you want to get it. So that's not great, and if you think it's required, then you're going to have to go back. Which, you know, not something I like too much. I don't like the thing cards in this game, but luckily it's not required, so it's not the biggest deal in the world. But overall, this level's great. You have the flipping mechanic here that's from Super Mario, which is a great reference to that game. It's obviously just Super Mario Bros. 3, which the music is great with. I will say that the outside of this level isn't great, but who cares? Who cares about the outside of this level when you can go into Super Mario Bros. 3 and have a non-linear adventure? Once you know the layout and know what you have to do, this level is amazing. You're gonna have such a fun time going through everything. And because of that, it's gotta be ranked up here at number 4. This is a top tier level from this game. I know some people may think that the Vortex Island is ranked very high on this list, but I gotta tell you guys something. This level is the most impactful level in the game for me personally. When I first played through Color Splash, I got stuck at Violet Passage and I did not want to continue. I was done. I really did not want to play the game anymore. The levels up to that point were good. I mean, I liked 4 Cobalt, the Crimson Tower was kind of memorable, but other than that, there really wasn't too much in the game that actually, you know, it really intrigued me that much. So, once I got through the Violet Passage with the guide, I got to Vortex Islands, and I actually played through the level. I thought it was fine, I liked the music, but, you know, nothing really impressed me that much. I went through the Toad House, and then I went through the pipe, the single pipe, and then everything changed. The whole world was completely flipped. There was no more water. There was like stalactites coming up from the ground. There was nothing below. We were in a parallel world, and it was creepy as heck. Like I said, the music was game-changing to me. This was so impactful for me on my first playthrough, and it still gives me chills going through it every single time. I go to the starting place on the parallel world, and I just look out and see all the just abyss that is out there that the water used to be. It's so cool, it's so memorable to me personally, and it sticks with me so much, especially just throughout all of World 4. And even with that, we have good level layout. When you're in the cave and you're at the Toad House, you can go back and forth with the parallel worlds, and you'll actually see differences if you're messing with both of them. It's a really good concept with the washing machine in the parallel world. The vortex is literally being caused by a washing machine in the parallel world, and you have to clean it up, and you take it for yourself, and then you fight a ton of enemies for it. It's basic, but it works. Overall, the level itself is good, but the parallel world atmosphere is game-changing to me. And because of that, it absolutely deserves to be number 3 here. I cannot stress how close number 2 and number 1 are, but Fortune Island, I can't put at number 1. Even though I had it at number 1 for so long, I can't do it. I like this level so much, but I feel like it's just because of nostalgia, and I can't put it at number 1 because of that. Fortune Island, though, is an amazing level. Obviously, we have the nostalgia with the parallel worlds. Yes, it is still there, it works. I also think the music here is good. It's just as good as it was in Vortex Island, but it's different, and I like that, especially because this is the boss level for this world. And just overall, I like the concept more of switching back and forth constantly, instead of just going through it once or twice like Vortex Island, and especially Lighthouse Island. And because of that, it makes it a much more interesting and dynamic level because of that. You have the Toad Captain that is trapped in the parallel world. You bring him back into the real world, and you get to see the two Toad Captains meet. The one Toad Captain idolizes the other one. It's very cool. Also, this Toad Captain was the one that actually wrote the diary that led you through Violet Passage, which was very interesting. And I do like that a lot. There's so much here. There's also the music that I mentioned. We got the good boss fight. Wendy is an amazing boss fight here. Well, it's a good boss fight that has amazing music. I mean, that's the main thing that stands out. The music is amazing. It's not the best boss fight in the world, but it works very well for this world, and obviously the music is a huge standout. I know a lot of people may not love this world, going back and forth, maybe not enjoying the atmosphere as much as Vortex Island, but for me personally, the nostalgia is here for it. I still love the concept of the parallel worlds. It's actually used really well here. And overall, this is one of my most memorable parts of going through the game, and I love going through Fortune Island every single time I play this game, which is why it absolutely deserves to be at number 2. I know some people might say that having Black Bowser's Castle, the final level in the game, at the number 1 spot, it might be anticlimactic, but I don't care. I knew that this level was going to be number 1 for really only a little bit of time, because Fortune Island was going to be number 1 for the longest time. But I realized that there's so much for Black Bowser's Castle that is super memorable that landed here at number 1. Let's talk about the bosses first, because obviously, I mean, there's the final boss here, which, I mean, it's good. I like the music, it's pretty difficult, it has some really difficult attacks to dodge, so overall it's really fun. And also there's the Roy fight, which I know some people might think is unnecessary, because then there's 2 bosses in this level, but the boss itself has very unique gimmicks with all the paint being spit at you, which gives you different effects, which is very interesting. And I know I complained about Emerald Circus having the enemies wasting your stickers, and kind of like with Sunset Express, but here it works because you're given so many powerful cards after this, which is so useful. So because of that, I don't really see it as a problem, especially because I actually like this boss fight. The layout itself, the actual level, is very fun. You start off by using Huey as a real bucket, then you get to see all the black paint that is being used, and it's very threatening, along with the music, which the music, it is my favorite OST, I guess that's what we'll call it. It's my favorite piece of music in this entire game. Very intense, it sounds amazing, and it fits the theme. It makes it a very threatening level, and that continues because you then start to use bob-ombs to blow up walls. And then you use bob-ombs to blow up a ton of big bob-ombs, which literally destroys the entire castle, which may seem like a good thing, and it is. The issue is that a ton of black paint just starts flooding the entire castle, and if you remember from Sunglow Ridge, black paint is toxic to you, so you cannot run into black paint at all, so you start running away from it, and it is constantly chasing you, which is very intense for the final level, and it works so well. So many fast-paced moments where you have to do a ton of dodging, you have to do some parkour, it's really good. And then, at that point, you're done. You're done with the level after you're running from the black paint. Once you defeat the final boss, you're completely done with this level. And that is the end of Color Splash. What an amazing ending that Color Splash truly has, and that's why it absolutely deserves to be number 1. And that's the end of this video. Like the video, please, and subscribe. That's it. Goodbye.